Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is part 2. We're going to do this simulation, water simulation now with this scene, and we need to do a couple things before we even do that. So what I would suggest that you do is we kind of manage our scene right now. So highlight everything in your scene, and what I want you to do is I want you to delete by type history. Just click on delete by type history or go to edit, delete by type history. And I also want you to do a freeze transformation. You can either click on that icon, that's under polymodeling shelf, and you can also go to modify and freeze transformations there. Okay, and then I want you to save your scene file. So file, save scene as, and make sure you name it something that's appropriate and that you do not touch. If you do a simulation, that you don't save over it. Okay. Don't just click on save, make sure you save as. Okay, and for simulation that's really important, because if you don't do file save as, save scene as, then you're just overwriting your files, and then if you make a mistake you can't go back to even the modeled version because you got a bunch of junk in there, simulation stuff. So that's important. Now we need to kind of set up your scene as well, manage your files. So we're going to go in here to panels, and if you don't want to work that way, that's fine. But what I want is I want windows and I want my outliner open. Okay. Now a lot of times it might put it next to it, which is great. That's fine. If you don't see that, you're going to have to go in here and go to panels and do layouts and go panels side by side. You can do that. Now, it already put it in there, so I'm good to go, but if it doesn't, you have to do panels side by side, and then you can move that panel over, and then you can go in here, panels, and go to let's see here, panel and outliner, and that'll put your outliner there if you don't see this one. So this one I can take out and get rid of, but that's how you can get it side by side, and it's really important to have that open. The next thing as far as management goes is you need to name everything. So you can see that I've got floor, wall 1, 2, ceiling, box, all the way from 1 to 5, and then nozzle, handle, fire nozzle, and hose. That's important because you're going to be putting different dynamics on each one of these objects. So you need to know what their names are instead of just, you know, what is it? Cube 1, cube 2, cube 3. Okay, that's important. Alright, so after you do that, why don't you pause the video and get all that done. Delete by type history, freeze transformations, name everything, go ahead and save your scene as, save scene as, save it so you have something to come back to. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go into 4 view, and so I have all 4 views. You can see that if I get stuck on a viewport, just click on this guy right here, the view panel, viewport. It sets it up, and even if you mess it up, I usually, make sure I have that everything lined up from top view, side view, and front view. Also have my perspective up and running. If you don't see these, you can just click on this icon over here like I said. Alright, so I'm going to go to the side view first. Okay, here are my boxes. You can see how I line those up, and make sure the boxes aren't touching each other, and make sure they're above the ground for this to work, the simulation. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the front view, and let's go ahead and start the simulation. So we're going to need to go in here and make sure we're showing our effects only and particles, and we're going to be creating the legacy particles. Do not do the other particle tool or create emitter here. I want you to create emitter under legacy particles. Go into the option box and select directional and click create. There we go. As you can see in the outliner, we have our emitter and our particle, so click on the emitter. We know the whole deal with this. Let's go ahead and bring it up and get it into the nozzle and get that placed right in the middle, about halfway in. Since I extruded that in, you can see that extrusion in here like that. So that'll let the particles come out. So the emitter, we need to make sure we go to the attributes and we start messing with the emitter. So what direction are we going? Well, we are going to be going in not the positive x, but the negative x. So -1 will work just fine. Go ahead and play that, and there they are. Okay. Now you can see that we're going way too fast. So I need to go into my settings, time slider. We don't want playback speed to be free. We need to be 24 times 1. Now, when we do dynamics, rigid bodies, we may want to go up higher than that. And if you're going to do a simulation, water simulation, you're going to have the 24 frames per second times 2 on. You have to remember a couple things. That when you do play blast, it will not play it twice as fast. Okay? It'll play it at this rate. 24 frames per second, exactly. So keep that in mind. So you will have to have Premiere Pro to speed it up double, and I'll show you how to do that. But right now you need to understand that if you do 24 frames times 2, so the dynamic simulation looks good and that's not so slow, then you will have to make sure that you understand that when you do a play blast, it will only do it at this speed. It won't do it twice as fast. It'll be slow again. Okay, and that will in turn kind of make all this slow. So you have to kind of make a decision. If you don't have Premiere and you don't have any other video solution to double the speed, then your simulation will just have to be slow. Okay. Alright. Okay. So I'm gonna go just kind of keep it at 24 frames per second times 1 because I just need to know what the simulation will really look like. And let's go in here and play it. Okay, so with that said, we've got a couple things we need to do. Just like anything that we've had before, it's going too slow. We need to spread the particles out. So just kind of do what we always do here. So we've got it the right direction, direction x, -1, and then the speed, let's go to something like 10. And random, we want to do like something like 0.5. Okay. We have spread right here. Okay, spread. And we want to do 0.15. We don't want to go too high with this. So let's try that first. Let's see what that looks like. That's spread too much. So let's do 0.05. There we go. Much better. That'll work. That'll work pretty good. Alright, so that looks good. And the particles, let's get them so we can see them a little bit better. Okay. Alright, that looks pretty good. Like that. And let's do a little bit more. Let's go back to the emitter and make this 1,000. And that shouldn't slow you down at all. There we go. That's much better. So we'll do 1,000, and let's see, the speed's okay, I think, for now. It's not fast enough, of course, but that gets us started. And so I think we're good with that. Particle shape then. This is where we can tell it how long to live. Let's do random range. Lifespan to be, let's do 2. Random range to 0.5. And then we're going to change this to streak. The reason why we do that is that just looks like a water droplet with motion blur. That's the reason why I pick it. It looks better. Click on render type. Alright, so let's go ahead and see what we have so far. There we go. Looks great. And we kind of need to get the timing now. And this is the problem, trying to figure out if we're going to do double the speed because of the dynamics. And that's what we have to think about. So will that look good at double the speed? Okay. Let's take a look and see if we can change that and see if that will make a difference here. Let's go 24 frames times 2, save that. Yeah, that does. Actually does look right. Looks about right. Okay, looks good. Okay, so we got that set up. Let's go to side view and see if that still looks about right. So sometimes you gotta go to the side view, orthographic view, to see how it hits, when it hits. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I think I'm good with that. Just have to kind of see if that looks good. And I think that looks good. Now, that's double the speed, right? So those of you that are not going to be able to go into Premiere and change that to make it double the speed, you're going to have to go back and change this. Okay? And make sure that's at this frame rate. Make sure you save. And then when you play it, it'll look slower, so you're going to have to turn the speed up. So you need to do that now. So the speed here you'll have to double that speed. So those of you that can't go into Premiere and double the speed, you'll have to double it here. So if I do that, then you can see that it looks the same as we had before. Alright, so you have to make that choice at this point. Okay? Alright, so for me, I'm able to go into Premiere and double it, so I'm going to go back and make this change here. This is what I have set up. So if this is a setup for Premiere, that means I can go in there and change it. Okay. All right. So the rest of you guys, those of you that don't have Premiere or don't have the availability of using Premiere, might be able to go into another video package. There's lots of free stuff out there. You can check it out, and that will let you take your Play Blast and make it twice as fast. That's probably what you're going to end up doing anyway. Alright, so there it is. So we're good to go now. And so what I need to do is I need to add gravity, so the particles have some kind of gravity, and the old usual stuff. Alright, so fields and solvers, gravity, go in here, and we want to go ahead and reset settings and create. Let's see what happens now. Okay, yep. So that's the problem. We want an arc, but not like that. So I'm going to turn that down to something like 2. Alright. And then we're going to turn up the speed to counteract that a little bit, or we can go, yeah, let's go to 1 on that. So it's going to be low gravity. There we go. Something like that. But I still think I want to turn my speed up. So I'm going to go to 2. And then I'm going to go back to my emitter and then turn the speed up to maybe 15. See what happens there. Counteract that. There we go. Okay. And I think I'm just going to have to move everything kind of up. Now, the power of this and the pressure, the water pressure, there's not going to be a whole lot of arc, but there's going to be a little. Okay, so I still think it probably can be a little bit faster. So I might have to go to 20, even with double the speed. And you might, and those of you that, there we go, that looks much better. I do kind of want to get the water particles to be up about in the middle here. So I need to move this whole contraption up a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything here and just move it up like that. There we go. Click off of that and go ahead. There we go. And I'm trying to get in the center there. There we go, like that. So we're going to knock those 3 boxes over basically. Okay. Alright, so there's a lot of power there. There we go. Okay, so if you don't like your simulation, again, you can do a couple things. So you can slow down the speed, okay? But if you do that, you have to go to your gravity field and you have to turn that down, okay? So you kind of have to play with that a little bit to get the speed that you want in the simulation that you want. And you just continue doing that, tweaking those two out between the emitter speed and the gravity to get the right look. Okay. Now it's too high now for me, so I'm going to click everything and move it down just a smidgen, not much, just a little bit. And now let's try it. And I just want to try to hit that in the center there. Okay. Alright, great, perfect. Alright, so now we're ready for collisions. Okay. So we're going to take the particle and we're going to select a couple things. So I'm going to select the particle and then the floor first, and we're going to do and particles make collide. Okay. Alright, click off. Click the particles, click the wall, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make it collide. So in particles, make collide. You don't want to select everything, it's going to confuse the computer. So we're doing one at a time. So particle, I'm just basically clicking on the particle, shift selecting the object, okay, and go to and particles. And take your time here. This is where it's really important that you just take your time. Okay, don't get in a big old hurry. So we're going to go to particle and then we're going to select each one of these boxes. Okay. Alright, so in particles, make collide. Okay. Back to particle, go to the second one. So go into in particles, make collide. Go back to particles and do this each one. Make collide, particle, next box. Make collide, particle, next box. I'm holding the shift key and selecting them, and make collide. Alright, so now we've got what this is going to look like. Alright, so we got a geoconnector that's not working, right? Obviously. Alright, so, and then we got particles hitting the back, which is cool. Now the particles are really moving. Okay? Alright, so we kind of want to slow that down a little bit. So with the geoconnector, we don't see it here in the outliner, but we see it here, geoconnector here. So let's go ahead and turn the resilience down to something like 0.15. We've done this before. And friction up to something like 1 and 1. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay. Alright. So the problem is we have a geoconnector for all of these. So I'm going to kind of select this, go in here, and we need to select these boxes. Each one of these boxes will have its own geoconnector. Okay. So this becomes kind of a problem, right? Because all of these, except for the ceiling, has a geoconnector. 1, geoconnector 2, geoconnector 3, geoconnector, and then it goes on and on and on. Okay? So I can't select all of them and change them all with the geoconnectors. It won't let me do that. So each one of these, you can either do them one at a time, which is kind of a pain in the butt. 0.1, what did I say, 1.15, and friction to be 1, and do that all the way down for each one of these. Resilience 0.15, and friction at 1. And don't forget any. So ceiling's not done. Geoconnector 0.51. wall, 0.51 wall, 0.5 1. Make sure you hit enter on all these. 0.15 and 1 friction, and 0.15 and 1. There we go. And 0.15 and 1. Okay, got that one. 0.15 and 1. There we go. And then a nozzle I didn't do, fire hose. Okay, so I think we got it all. Let's go and play back the animation. There we go. You can see that the particles are going through the boxes like they should. There we go. Right? Cool. Alright, so the particles aren't living long enough. So let's go ahead and change that. So go to go to the particle itself, go to particle shape, and under lifespans go to 3. I think that should be about right. Try that. Here we go. And you can see that they're dying off before they're hitting the ground. Now, what do I have for bounce on the ground? Floor geoconnector, 0.51 friction. Okay, great. So they're not bouncing off at all. Right, and they're not living long enough. So let's go to particle and change that to 4. Okay. Right, great. So they're living a little bit longer. They're not bouncing at all, or they're not. The friction is killing it, pretty much. Yeah, friction's kind of killing it. There we go. Okay, so we need to add a splash to that. So it doesn't really matter what the lifespan is on those. So let's go in here and kind of take a look at what we have so far. Right, so we've got that. Alright, so now we need to change the color because that's really hard to see again. Change the color. So let's go ahead, select the particle, and let's go down to color, like we've done before. Add per particle attribute. Click on add attribute. RGB PP. Right in the box here, we're going to go to create ramp. Okay, there we go. And we're going to go right click over that and go to edit ramp. Okay, we're going to go in here and do kind of a nice color. Blue-green if you want. Okay, kind of give it a nice color. Bring that into the blue range a little bit more. Then we want it to go to white. Okay. Go ahead and play that. Right, that looks pretty good. Right. Alright, so great. There it is. And then we're going to add, you need to add a splash. Okay. Alright, so we're going to add a splash. So particles, get out of there. We're done with that. Okay, go back into my, let's go ahead and just click off and then click back on particle and we can get back into the particle shape. So there's the color. Color's done. Now what we're going to do with the particle though is we're going to add that particle collision event editor. Okay, so there's particle 1, so we're going to hit the box and then splash, make, create splashes. Okay, right, so let's go in here and emit number of particles. Let's go to something like 4. Spread is let's say 0.15 on that, and that looks good. original one dies. Okay, and create event. Right, cool. Alright, so now particle 1 and particle 2. So particle 1 has the geoconnector to it. Okay. Alright, so we've got a lot more geoconnectors now. 115, just make sure they're all the same. Particle 2. Okay. What's going to happen with those? So let's go ahead and click on that, and now they're just kind of there we go. I got twice as many particles there, and they have no gravity, right? So let's go ahead and we need to fix that. So let's go ahead and add those particles as streaks. Okay. If we don't want to, we can just go to particle shape. And so these are points, so we're going to go to streak, current render type, and we also do need to change the live forever, lifespan of something like 1, random of 0.5, that. Okay, and then we need to add a color to that. So under color, go ahead and do the same thing here, add attribute, and under here we're going to create a ramp, and then we're going to go ahead and this will be like a foamy spray, so I'm going to edit the ramp to be more like a foamy spray. So I'm going to go in here, and it's going to be kind of a light, very light blue to white, something like that. And again, we're going to add a gravity to that to pull them down. There we go. And you might want to think about the spread then at the new with a new particle. Okay. So what is the spread on that? The emitter spread. I think it's going with the same emitter spread as the other one, so there's not much we can do with that. Let's see here. Gravity field to number 2. Let's bring that down a little bit. Nope. Bring it down to something like 5. And we're on the particle 2. Gravity field. Okay. There we go. So that's our particles now are being split up into smaller, finer particles. So that's kind of our splash. And they're kind of going through. There we go. So with the particles now, we need to have them collide with that. So let's go in here and do a particle collide with that object here. So I'm going to do another particle collision. I'm going to shift select the object, the floor, and go to in particles and collide. So they collide. There we go. And then we can do another collision on that. So we got collide, and that means we have a geoconnector connected to that particle system. So that's going to be 0.15, and friction to be something like, I don't think I want it to be 1, so maybe 0.5 on that. There we go. Looks good. Okay, cool. And your particle particle lifespan could be a little bit longer if you want to. Let's do 1.5 on that. There we go. Gives us more of a water feel. Kind of sliding along there. There we go. That looks pretty realistic. And yeah, I know it would pool and stuff right here. That's good enough for now. Okay, so we got that looking good. We can always make those changes now. So, alright, cool. And if you got lost, just rewind and watch it closely. Pause the video and get my settings. Sometimes I go quickly, a little bit too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that clock. And we're going to save this. So that's one part of this. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and save. Alright, so that's saved. My water simulation is saved now. Okay. Alright, so that's the end of this video. And that's now we're going to go ahead and get the dynamics working on the boxes, see if that works. And then we'll continue layering on to this until we get exactly what we want, exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so there's our simulation. Now it's easy to, we didn't animate this yet, so we'll do that in the next video. So we'll animate that and then get the boxes started. Alright, I'll see you then.